There's a lot of cooperation with the French, and the French President Macron, is very, very keen to increase even further the cooperation with Nigeria.
After a successful outing at the 26th Conference of the Parties, President Buhari arrives Paris to deepen relations between the two countries.
Do approve the Conference Committee report on the Electoral Act number 6, 2010. Say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it.
Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2010 finally passed as both chambers iron out grey areas.
People turned out, unlike last week Saturday.
Anambra governorship election now conclusive as Ihaya electorate vote. Hello and thank you for joining us on NTA Network News. I am Ian Ray John. Michael Alaleye joins us from Lagos while Kemi Akiwande is in Ibadan. Welcome. President Muhammadu Buhari is in Paris, the French capital, on special invitation of President Emmanuel Macron. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that the visit aimed at deepening relations between Nigeria and France will last 4 days.
President Muhammadu Buhari, who arrived at Le Bourget International Airport at 2:30 Tuesday evening, is expected to undertake a reciprocal state visit to France on Wednesday. During the one-day engagement, the president and his French counterpart, Emmanuel Macron, will discuss issues of mutual interest for their countries, particularly on strengthening economic ties, improving partnership on security, and working jointly on education, healthcare, and halting the threats of COVID-19 to the global economy.
Notwithstanding the fact that Nigeria is not one of the francophone countries, as it were, but Nigeria is one of the most important trade partners for France. And of course, we are also allies in the fight against terrorism, especially in the Sahel. And the French have invested a lot in the security sector in Africa. And together with Nigeria, is also part of the intelligence fusion unit. So there's a lot of cooperation with the French, and the French President Macron, is very, very keen to increase even further the cooperation with Nigeria across all sectors: economic, trade, social, and cultural.
President Buhari will thereafter, on Thursday, join other world leaders, heads of international organizations, members of the civil society, and the private sector at this year's Paris Peace Forum to strategize on better governance for a world of peace. He is expected to deliver a keynote address at the event to share the peculiarity of the Nigerian experience with the world and efforts undertaken so far towards achieving sustainable peace.
This is a global forum for discussing global challenges, and so it is important for Mr. President to take part in that, because a lot of those challenges affect Nigeria directly, and Nigeria is also very much engaged in either finding solutions to those or strengthening our capacity in those areas.
The president is also expected to participate at an international partnership forum co-organized by the Nigerian government.
The idea of that is for Nigeria to be able to get across the narrative of a lot of progress and a lot of very good work that the government is doing. And so we have participating in that a large number of different ministries, departments, and agencies of government, as well as the private sector, who will all be here, and representation also from the French government and the French private sector to really engage with potential partners on what Nigeria has to offer: economic, cultural, and social.
At the Paris Peace Forum in particular, President Muhammadu Buhari and the participating world leaders are expected to review about 80 projects designed towards improving global peace and economy, as well as ensuring a more harmonious living by responding to the urgency of climate change, fake news, and cybersecurity. From Paris, France, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
Back home, the National Assembly has passed the 2010 Electoral Act Amendment Bill which was committed to its conference committee following variations in the versions earlier passed. The National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Nkwo reports that the passage this time followed the approval of the committee's report by both chambers.
27 days after the National Assembly suspended plenary for 2022 budget defense, the legislators are back to the chambers. The report of the National Assembly Conference Committee on Electoral Act Amendment Bill was approved in both chambers. The committee resolved that mode of voting and transmission of results shall be in accordance with the procedure determined by the Electoral Commission and also approved direct primaries for political parties.
This bill is now ready for presidential assent. I'm happy to say that most of what we call citizens' top priorities on the Electoral Act amendment, including the use of technology, has been addressed by this Electoral Act 2021.
Those in favor that the Senate do approve the conference committee report on the Electoral Act number 6, 2010, say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
The Senate rescinded the session and recommitted it to the full Senate and agreed with the House.
President Muhammadu Buhari has written to Senate seeking the confirmation of the appointment of Professor Ayo Omotayo as the Director General of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies. Senate has condemned the invasion of Justice Mary Odele's residence on the 29th of October 2021, acknowledged the efforts of the Inspector General of Police for constituting an investigative panel as it urged him to make public the outcome of the investigation, as moved by Senator Betty Apiafi. A motion by Senator Emmanuel Oke-Jeff also called on the Inspector General of Police to investigate the disappearance of Todu Salem, a Vanguard reporter attached to the National Assembly, while Senate, through a motion by Senator Estefanus Gang, condemned the impeachment of the Speaker of the Plateau State House of Assembly.
Urge Inspector General of Police to make public the outcome of the investigation.
13th day of October 2021, the said Todua went missing.
To call on the Plateau State House of Assembly to be guided by the rule of law and the Constitution in all legislative business.
Senate commiserated with victims of the collapsed 21-story building in Ikoyi, Lagos, and advised building professionals to ensure that only qualified persons are engaged in construction. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the APC Tripartite Consultative Committee set up by President Muhammadu Buhari met at the presidential villa in Abuja to discuss issues concerning the party. Prominently among issues discussed was that of direct primary elections in states. Senator Adamu Aliero, who spoke to newsmen after the closed-door meeting, says there is no going back on the resolve of members of the National Assembly for direct primary.
We made it very clear that we stand on the legislation passed by the two chambers of the National Assembly, and it is irreversible. We have concluded that the law stands. We are returning the party back to the people that is conducting direct primaries. We believe that that is the only way we can ensure internal democracy within the All Progressive Congress.
Also, Governor Yahya Bello of Kogi State, who spoke to newsmen on behalf of other governors, says members are ready to abide if the bill is assented to by the president.
The topical issue has been resolved between the legislature, the executive, and our party. So it's a good resolution.
Is there any consensus between the governors and the legislature on the issue of direct primaries?
I don't think any governor or any legislature or anybody whatsoever, as far as APC is concerned, is afraid or have any reservation about any mode of primaries, as far as our party is concerned. The only concern is the implication of having only one option. In case an option fails, what happens?
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo chaired the closed-door meeting. Now, to talk more on the passage of the Electoral Act is a public affairs analyst, Jide Ojo, who is right here. Many thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, now, the two chambers of the National Assembly have finally harmonized the Electoral Act bill, allowing INEC to transmit results electronically. What does this signify?
It's an epochal situation or epochal event today, and I am very happy, very, very delighted to received the news of the passage. I've advocated for this. This is a journey of 2 years that is gradually coming to an end. Yes, we have reached a critical juncture with this passage because the last order now is, in fact, second to the last order, let me put it that way. The second to the last order now is for the president to assent. And I just hope that we will not have a deja vu of what happened in 2018 when the president refused to assent. Ordinarily, there is no cause to fear because the initial gray areas that we raised concern about in civil society and the media was about what the Senate had earlier passed on July 15 before they went on recess, where they were asking that INEC should get the approval of National Communication Commission and National Assembly before it will deploy electronic transmission of results.
Okay.
But public opinion, public pressure was mounted on the Senate, and they recanted, they recommitted that section, and they went in line with what the House of Reps passed. So that was what I thought could be a snag if the bill were to be sent to the president the way it was passed by the Senate on July 15. But like I said, good reason prevailed. They saw why Nigerian public want the infusion of technology or more infusion
transmission of
technology.
results. Now, of course, another contending issue is direct primaries. Okay, now it's controversial because we hear that governors are not okay with it. How do you see this playing out at the end of the day?
Well, I don't think the president will withhold assent over issue of the controversies over direct or indirect primaries. Left to me, there should have been a choice of Section 87 of the Extant Electoral Act says that there will be either direct or indirect primary. But the National Assembly, in their wisdom, felt they want to return the party to the people by meaning that they want all members of the political party to participate in the nomination of the candidate. Whether this will make, both direct and indirect primaries have their pluses and minuses. And if in their own wisdom, because of the likelihood of indirect primaries being manipulated, being subjected to corrupt inducement of delegates and all of that. If they decide to now make it something that every party member will participate in the nomination, that on the surface is good.
Good, okay.
But we have also seen situations where even direct primaries have been corrupted.
Okay, fine. So let's look at this now. If the president assents to this at the end of the day, what would be the effect on subsequent elections?
Positive. So when I said earlier on that this is second to the last, I mean that after this is transmitted to the president and he assents to it, there will still be need to gazette the Electoral Act before it's made public. So those two steps, but the more critical one is the presidential assent.
Okay.
Now, if the president assents to it, all of us who are working in the electoral process need to key into it to educate our different constituencies. The media needs to educate its constituency, the civil society. INEC need to pick it to look at it in terms of electoral planning. Right. Even the security agencies will look at, is there anything that have been assigned to them? Okay. And the good news about this is that this is not just an amendment of 2010 Electoral Act. This is a brand new Electoral Act.
Thank you so much, Jide Ojo. Of course, you're still going to be here because we'll move on from the Electoral Act now to the Anambra election. The supplementary governorship election in Hiala, local government area of Anambra State, has ended. Correspondent Chinyere Fesio-Okoye reports that announcement of final result for Anambra governorship election is about to begin at INEC Secretariat in Awka.
In most of the polling units visited in the early hours of the day in Ihiala town and environs, where the supplementary governorship election took place, the bimodal voter accreditation system BVAS functioned effectively as against what played out during the November 6th poll.
My people are performing their civic responsibilities without coercion. But the energy of my town is high. You can see people want to vote.
People turned out, unlike last week Saturday.
Though there were initial complaints of late arrival of electoral materials in some areas, which forced some of the electorates to go back to other activities. The voters, however, commended the general conduct of the exercise. With all eyes on Ihiala local government supplementary election, the electorate, no doubt, are in high spirit, hoping that their ballots will be protected. Meanwhile, towards the rounding off of the election, NTA news crew deployed for the coverage ran into exchange of gunshots between police and unknown gunmen around Osumohu axis in the council area, where it was gathered that election was not conducted at Lilu, Iseke, and Osumohu due to perceived security threats. In Awka, Chinyere Fesio-Okoye, NTA News.
Rest assured that as soon as the results is being announced, we shall rejoin our correspondent in Awka for a live broadcast of the announcement. I still have Jide Ojo right here with me, and now we shall be talking about the Anambra election. Yes, Ihiala happened today, and results would be announced, I'm sure, in few minutes. What's your take of the election in Anambra?
Well, my take is that ultimately, INEC has been able to pull this off. Fair chance has been given to the good people of Ihiala. In 2013, it was Idemili North and South where election could not hold, and there was a supplementary election because that election had to be declared inconclusive. I know a number of Nigerians have been worried, no, why will INEC need to go and conduct election in Ihiala when a winner, according to them, is already known? Because if out of 21 local government, you have conducted elections successfully in 20, then the winner should be declared. Not so fast. The reason why we are having Ihiala today was because there is a purported 147,000, close to 148,000 registered voters in that place. And if you look at the margin of lead of ABGA versus the other contestants, particularly PDP, APC, and YPP, you find out that the margin of lead is such that if election did not hold in Ihiala, there is a possibility of any of those other candidates saying that if election had held, they will have won.
Okay.
So that 148,000 is why INEC had to go back and conduct. And unfortunately, we still have this unknown government, in spite of every deployment, still not making election to hold in some 3 communities or maybe 3 units. But be that as it may, it's all about majority. And I just
now talking about majority and the fact that election had to hold in Ihiala before the announcement of result, how would this entrench democracy?
It will, because then, you know, democracy is about free choice of the people. If the Ihiala people were to be shut out, there is that tendency for them to feel aggrieved that their voice did not count in the choice of the new governor. Anambra is due for a new governor to be sworn in March 2022. And now the Ihiala people have had a fair chance of participating. The good news is that we heard that the turnout was more impressive than it was last Saturday, and that the atmosphere was generally peaceful, but for the skirmishes with the security agencies by some unknown government. But I think gradually, one thing the presidency has achieved, and I need to commend the president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces for not shifting this poll. If the election has been shifted because of the threat of the separatist agitation of IPOB, then the government will have been perceived as weak, because then they will now say, okay, election can only hold on this and this condition.
Okay, fine.
Which will not have been okay.
Now, talking about conditions on which elections should hold, we have 2 off-cycle elections still coming up, 2022, Ekiti and Osun. What do you think, or how do you see the electoral landscape in Nigeria, of course, as we prepare for 2023?
My sister, the good news is that we now have a new electoral act. I'm excited about that because that will now be the basis upon which INEC will plan for those off-cycle elections that you have just mentioned, Ekiti and Osun in 2022. Because if the president can give this to us, the Electoral Act, the brand new electoral to us as a new Christmas present, I believe that if this is unstable before he arrives from Paris, he will definitely give us as a New Year present. So once he does that, electoral planning will be better.
Okay, and
because now everything should work better in terms of voter, the infusion of technology and other good things that are in that act, which many of us may not know as at this point in time.
All right, thank you so much. We're actually looking forward to good things everywhere in Nigeria and, of course, in our elections. Thank you, Jide Oje, for your time.
Always a pleasure.
All right, so the All Progressives Congress Governors Forum is calling for a review on the proposed Electoral Act by the 9th National Assembly to allow political parties maintain status quo in their pre-election activities. This formed part of highlights at the governors' meeting in Abuja. Salihu Abdullahi Gwanara reports.
At a meeting that looks like a crucial and critical one and lasted more than 2 hours were behind closed doors. Chairman of the APC Governors Forum and Governor of Kebbi State, Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, at the end of the closed-door engagement says the party's nationwide congresses and the leadership role of the Governor Maimala Buni-led caretaker and extraordinary convention planning committee so far were issues that form highlights of the meeting.
We are concerned that once you limit the abilities of parties to choose options that they so desire, that may even be arguably undemocratic, because nothing stops for one party from adopting one mode or the other. We took cognizance of the COVID challenge, that nobody was ready for COVID, and as a result of COVID, Mr. President signed an executive order which limits public gatherings. So you can imagine if you have a legislation in place that says you can only do something by public gathering.
Governor Bagudu says the APC governors acknowledged the rebuilding efforts the party is currently enjoying from its members and assures that the APC governors are on the same page, working in unity towards conducting a national convention. In Abuja, Salihu Abdullahi Gwanara, NTA News.
Time for our first break. Please stay. Thank you for staying. Earlier, we told you that President Muhammadu Buhari is in Paris on a special invitation from the French president. Hence, the federal government of Nigeria is organizing the Nigeria International Partnership Forum, NIPF, a high-level event to accompany and strengthen Nigeria's participation in the Paris Peace Forum. The one-day NIPF will bring together the Nigerian and French governments and private sectors in wide-ranging discussions focused on security, regional stability, trade and industrialization. It aims to attract investments to Nigeria and bridge existing infrastructure gaps. Additionally, it will spotlight Nigeria's immense trade and investment opportunities, reset false and distorted narratives about Nigeria, and shed light on the efforts, initiatives and successes achieved in both the public and private sectors as the country charts a trajectory of recovery from the COVID-19-induced global economic downturn. Highlights of the forum will be the participation of His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who will deliver the keynote address. Speakers and panelists at the NIPF include top Nigerian and French government functionaries, ministers and heads of MDAs, as well as Nigerian and French private sector operators are also participating. Others include the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Director General of the World Trade Organization, WTO, United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO, and French Development Agency. President of the African Development Bank and African Export-Import Bank, the French Minister of Foreign Trade and Economy, and the National Security Advisor, Major General, retired Babagana Mogono. In the face of inequalities in wealth and opportunity worsened by the COVID-19 pandemic, impact investing, an approach that integrates society's social and environmental goals, can no longer be ignored. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo made this observation in a keynote speech delivered virtually at the 4th Impact Investors Foundation annual convening on impact investing. The Vice President says glaring inequalities in wealth and opportunity in the face of poverty, misery and social alienation in any society is asking for trouble, stressing that such a situation is neither sustainable nor wise.
From the relatively random investment landscape that we have for impact investing, we now must move to a more orderly space where, for example, government regulations and incentives are clearly worked out with stakeholders. The point in the spectrum that is occupied by impact investors between the not-for-profit end, ESGs, and the for-profit entities is still essentially virgin. It's still essentially a virgin space. So questions are, how can we incentivize these investments, and how can we properly measure impact in order to assess what fair incentives would be? There's clearly an opportunity here for collaborative thinking between government and the impact investing community and other stakeholders on policy and regulations.
The Impact Investors Foundation was founded by the late Innocent Chukwuma and some other partners in promoting impact investment in Nigeria. And now, talking agriculture, the federal government, in collaboration with states, is considering an Operation Feed Yourself campaign to encourage the establishment of urban farms and small home gardens. This is coming under the auspices of the National Economic Council and the National Council on Nutrition, and it is part of other efforts to address malnutrition and related challenges in the country. State House correspondent Didi Onifade brings us details.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo during a virtual high-level meeting on nutrition attended by the United Nations Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed, state governors and representatives of development partners said the plan for Operation Feed Yourself is one of 3 major plans arising from the United Nations-backed food systems dialogues to advance the fight against malnutrition. Laulu Akonde, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity in the Office of the Vice President, speaks more on what the plan is all about.
And one vital thing that came out as proposed by the convener is the issue of Operation Feed Yourself. So we have what state governments will be doing, what federal government will be doing, how we can leverage on the resources of our partners. But also now the Operation Feed Yourself is government wants to encourage Nigerians to have farm gardens in their houses, in their homes, in schools, in public places.
Acknowledging the leadership of Nigeria to the United Nations Agenda 2030 and the African Union Agenda 2063, Amina Mohammed said the solution to many of the challenges associated with malnutrition lie in Nigerians' recent commitment through the Food Systems Summit process. Other plans are providing support to farmers across the country, especially by providing useful weather and soil pattern information that will improve farming yields, and also encouraging state governments to ensure prompt release of budget for nutrition and related activities. In the State House, Jide Onifade, NTA News.
Similarly, the federal government and the Central Bank of Nigeria have launched Brown Revolution aimed at cutting down importation of wheat by 60%. President Muhammadu Buhari launched the program in Kwal, Basa local government area of Plateau State. Musa Babali reports that the president was represented by Plateau State Governor Simon Lalong.
It is a revolution, but a brown one, because that is the color of wheat. The revolution is being supervised by the Central Bank of Nigeria to ensure the country is self-sufficient in the produce. The Central Bank of Nigeria is providing loan facility that will support 150,000 farmers that will cultivate 180,000 hectares in 15 states.
The bank will not rest its horse as we continue to work with our partners, the Lake Chad Research Institute, to expand the frontiers of wheat production in Nigeria to include other areas like the northern Oyo State, Kogi, Kwara, amongst other states.
If that is achieved, the country will be able to save $2 billion she spends annually on importation of wheat.
We have the land cleared, prepared. We have the farmers that are willingly waiting to receive the inputs for this production season. With the production of wheat, just like any other crops, we know that other allied industries will come up, processing industries, manufacturing industries, and this will also help on unemployment.
The president hopes that before the end of the administration, Nigeria will be free from importation of wheat.
I would like to commend the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwill Emefiele, and his tireless team for their effort, not just in the agri-value chain, but in almost all sectors of the economy, as shown in the recent launch of some transformative initiatives, like the 100 for 100 policy for production and productivity.
Memorandum of understanding was signed between the farmers and millers who will take off the produce for processing. From Kwal in Basa local government area of Plateau State, Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
The next set of reports will come from Lagos, where Michael will guide us. Michael.
Thank you, Yeri. The third mainland bridge is safe for vehicular movement as no section of the joint is either vibrating or shaking. Federal Controller of Works, Lagos State Olukade Popola, described news making the rounds on the safety of the bridge as rumor. Abolade Salami reports.
Sequel to the unverified news on the social media regarding the safety of the third mainland bridge, Federal Controller of Works took NTA News crew on a ride of the entire stretch of the bridge. To allay fears of motorists, the Controller of Works said repairs has been concluded on the bridge from Adekunle section to Adeniji Adele end.
We got the news that was circulating by rumor mongers. I want to tell you that it's a fake news. We are on top of a third mainland bridge now. As I'm speaking with you, you can see that it's safe. We have driven to the end and then we came back to this point. There is no place where there is any, where the bridge collapsed or where there is any vibration or is shaking.
The major work still ongoing, he said, is under the water.
They are carrying out the underwater repairs of the piers, the pike cap, and then the piers itself, including the shaft under the bridge.
The third mainland bridge recently had major repairs conducted on it and was open to traffic in February 2021. In Lagos, Abolade Salami, NTA News.
Stakeholders in the mid and downstream oil sector have agreed that there is need to sustain the channel of supply for petrol in the country. This was part of the communique issued by the group after a roundtable discussion with major oil marketers in the country. Kendia DBC has details.
These key players in the mid and downstream subsector of the oil industry are gathered here to discuss some critical issues affecting the smooth distribution of premium motor spirit, also known as petrol. This became necessary to allay any fear of a looming fuel scarcity in the country. After hours of deliberation, the meeting came to some agreement. Reading the communique to newsmen after the closed-door meeting, the Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Regulatory Authority, Farouk Ahmed, says the meeting agreed that marketers and depot owners are to start charging official ex-depot price immediately, just as the NNPC shall revert to Naira-dominated invoice for excess capacity for coastal movement using the I&E rates tentatively.
All marketers are enjoying to continue their operation and put their claim through the authority, while we will process and make payment for their services, so long we can ensure that that has been done properly. There's no worry about that. We'll continue to pay outstanding claims for bridging as well as current claims for bridging.
The Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority is expected to engage key players within the first quarter of 2022 on the implementation guidelines of the Petroleum Industry Act 2021. In Lagos, Kende Adebisi, NTA News.
Time for some messages, and when we return, we head straight to Ibadan, where Kemi Akinwande is standing by.
Welcome to Ibadan. Enhancing Nigeria's security through the experience of Army veterans is important in overcoming current challenges in the country. Chief of Army Staff Lieutenant General Farouk Yahaya stated these are the 4th Army Headquarters Veteran Affairs Directorate Seminar held in Ibadan. Yemisi Ajagun's report is here presented.
One of the agendas of the Nigerian Army is to leverage on the experience of retired officers to address the challenge of insecurity in the country. This informed the workshop, which drew participants from across the southwestern part of Nigeria to Bristol.
We believe that the retirees have inherent capacities, having served for this long, and they have also garnered experience while they were in service. And we believe they also interact with members of the community. They are closer to the society and the members of the populace.
The gathering is apt and timely towards enhancing and re-strategizing the security of the country.
The workshop is articulated to follow up on important issues raised in the second quarter edition of the seminar as it relates to the veterans and national security challenges, among others.
Your state governor, Sheyi Makinde, commended the Nigerian Army for selfless service and their role in securing the nation. The theme for the workshop is Harnessing Nigerian Army Veterans' Influence to Enhance National Security and Cohesion.
Workers' unions in Kwara State rose from a negotiating council, giving an ultimatum to the state government on the implementation of new minimum wage. The workers say all negotiations must be concluded this December and the new minimum wage fully implemented by January 2022. Olajide Bello has the report.
Kwara State is one of the states yet to fully implement the 2-year-old latest minimum wage to its civil servants. That of levels 1 to 6 was implemented in September, leaving levels 7 and above yet to be attended to. The meeting conclusively gave a deadline to the Kwara State government for the implementation of the minimum wage to the remaining cadres of workers.
The negotiation will soon start, and the commencement must be by December ending of this, by the ending of this year. Hopefully, by the first quarter of the next year, we should be able to sign in the level 7 and above.
State government, represented by the head of service, Susan Modupe Oluwole, pointed out that all labor-related activities to ensure payment of the new minimum wage is receiving priority attention.
We should also look inward and see how can government be helped. How can we, as labor people, how can we help government so that there will be a symbiotic relationship?
The federal government has taken steps towards monitoring the implementation of the minimum wage, aiming blacklisting states that have not implemented it and honoring those that have. Olajide Bello, NTA News.
And that's it from Ibadan. More reports with Inyeri in Abuja after the break.
Glad to have you back. Former Lagos State Governor and All Progressives Congress national leader Asiwaju Bola Tinubu has congratulated the Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Muhammad Saad Abubakar, on the 15th anniversary of his ascension to the throne. Tinubu said since the Sultan ascended the throne in November 2006, the royal father has provided purposeful leadership and direction not only to the Sokoto Caliphate, but also to the Islamic Ummah in Nigeria and beyond. He said, as co-chairman of the National Council of Traditional Rulers, the Sultan remains committed to and indeed worked assiduously for peace, unity and stability in Nigeria. He praised the Almighty Allah grants the Sultan many more years and wisdom to continue to lead the Caliphate and Islamic Ummah. Now time for a bit of sports with Badi Adeleye.
Many thanks, Yere. The Super Eagles of Nigeria held their first training session today at the training pitch of the Grand Stade de Tanger, Morocco, ahead of the 2022 FIFA World Cup qualifiers against Liberia and Cape Verde. Head coach Genotro supervised the session alongside his assistant coaches, while Aloy Ago, the team's goalkeeper trainer, drilled the duo of Maduka Okoye and Daniel Akpeye. Currently, 21 players are in camp, with the trio of Victor Osimhen, Odioni Gallo and John Noble being the only absentees. Rivers Angels suffered their second defeat of the CAF Women's Champions League in Egypt after losing 1-0 to South Africa's Mamelodi Sundowns ladies. Playing in their second Group B game on Tuesday, Rivers Angels conceded a 17th-minute goal scored by Sundowns captain Saneo in Clapwell. It is now 2 wins from 2 games for Sundowns, who top the group, while Rivers Angels remain bottom with no points. Back home now, 200 athletes drawn from different parts of the country are set to participate in the first edition of the Inspector General of Police Open Weightlifting Championship, which begins Wednesday at the Package B of the Moshood Abiola National Stadium, Abuja. The competition will feature 10 categories of male and female.
We see sports as a veritable tool for the promotion of national cohesion and peace and stability, which we need at this time. And this is one of the events we have put together. It's open, it's for all weightlifters to come and compete. That is why the federation is on board.
We are trying our possible best to make sure we bring the weightlifting to where it should be.
And finally, the second polo tournament of the year 2021 at the Kefi Polo Ranch has commenced with high intensity. The tournament, which is dedicated to Edo business mogul, late Captain Idahosa Okumbo, in recognition of his humanitarian services, ends on Sunday.
We are introducing a new crop in the entire agenda or calendar or program of tournaments here, and the cup is dedicated to the late, in memory of the late captain.
That will be all on sports. It's back to your area.
Many thanks, Badi. The death has been announced of Madam Theresa Lily Odu of Kakwagum Village, Boki local government area in Cross River State. She was aged 93. Madam Theresa Odu was an accomplished farmer, a community leader, and an advocate of peace and communality. She will be buried on Saturday, November 13th, 2021 in Kwakwagum, Boki local government area in Cross River State. Madam Theresa Odu is survived by 8 children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, amongst whom is Gabriel Odu, Manager News and Current Affairs, NTA Headquarters, Abuja. Now time for a quick peep at the weather prospect for Wednesday.
Glad to have you join us. For Wednesday morning, the prospect of morning thunderstorms over the coastal belt as well as parts of Kebbi and Niger states. The afternoon and evening holds better prospect of thunderstorms over most parts of the southern region, to include parts of Benue, Nasarawa, Plateau, FCT, Kogi, Kwara, Niger, extending to the southern parts of Kebbi, Kaduna, as well as parts of Taraba and Adamawa. The northern cities are expected to be sunny. I am Theodora Aitu. Thank you for watching.
And just so you know, we will join Oka live for the announcement of the governorship election result. All right, so that's Network News tonight. Many thanks for watching. Please remember that rape is a crime. Do the needful. I'm Ian Ray John. Good night.